I got a strange going on out here. Something just killed my dog.
Something killed your dog?
Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. As always, I'm your host, Dano. You guys, I got a great show. I've got a friend of mine on. Now we haven't met in the sense of I can hang out over at his house and he can hang out over my house. We met through the channel. He joined one day in the chat and just came in dropping bombs, as I like to say. You may know him as RaySting12 in the chat. Other people may know him as Anthony, but he's a buddy of mine, and I truly enjoy talking with him. But before we get into what he's here to talk about, again, thank you so much for all the support you guys have showed this channel. Without you guys, I would not be able to do what I'm doing. It's growing by leaps and bounds. I've only got a few more days. I was hoping to hit maybe 7,000 by the end of the year, 7,000 subscribers. But you know what? I'd be happy with just 100. But again, everybody who subscribed, members, moderators, listeners, thank you so much. I appreciate you. If you guys have had an encounter and you'd like to come on the channel, come on the show to share your encounter, shoot me an email at thecryptidpodcast72@gmail.com. Again, thecryptidpodcast72@gmail.com. You guys, without further ado, let's bring the man of the hour on. Let's bring Anthony, aka RaySting12. Brother, what's going on, man?
Hey, what's going on, man? How are you?
Dude, I'm doing well, man. We had this scheduled for last week, but you were under the weather a little bit, and you let me know. You gave me enough time, and we rescheduled for today. And I'm telling you, I remember a phone call, or actually text message you sent me, and you had an encounter that kind of, yeah. And again, I was doing some prep work when you had that done, so I was out of it myself. But dude, you know what? Let me ask you, like I ask everybody else, man. What got you into this subject matter? What got you into the world of cryptids and the weird and the wacky?
I've always had weird experiences and encounters as a kid, teenager, and as an adult, between the paranormal, the supernatural, and the physical. But cryptids, it's going to sound dumb, but actually it was my long-term relationship girlfriend back when I was a teenager. She talked about being a cryptid zoologist, and I was like, what's that? And she explained it to me, and I was like, oh, you mean Bigfoot? Now, granted, Dogman wasn't talked about or anything like that, or a lot of the other cryptids. It was just Bigfoot. That's what I've always known. But yeah, that's kind of what got me started, and then I just started going deeper and deeper in the rabbit hole as I got older. So that's where we're at today.
I think that's what we all do, man. We focus in on something, and we kind of Google it, see what we can find, and then all of a sudden, oh, let's hit this link. Well, then let's hit this link. Well, let's hit this link, and next thing you know, it's 4:30 in the morning. You got to get up at 5 to go to work, and you just realize you spent the better part of 10 hours falling down a rabbit hole.
Yep.
Yeah. So, you have told me a couple of crazy encounters that you've had, but I'm not going to spoil it for anybody. I want you to come out and just kind of tell us what you had. And you said you're going to start from the beginning, and we're going to end up with what just happened. What, a week ago, or a week or so ago?
It's been a week and a half.
Yeah.
All right. Something else happened within. Actually, right around the time I got sick, but that's what I told you. I'm going to leave that as a surprise towards the end. So.
All right, dude. Well, you know what? let's go. The show is yours, my good man.
So we're going to go back from when I was like 5 or 6 years old. I'd say I was about 6 or 7 years old because I was in first grade. A good buddy who, when I was a kid growing up, I'm not going to give him his name. I'll just say K. It's his first initial. Me and him used to hang out all the time. We used to go out where I lived. I used to live in Maryland. I grew up in Maryland, in the Montgomery County area. There is a large regional park that is around there. that I was very close. Actually, I was like right there where I lived at in the neighborhood I lived at, which was a bunch of townhouses. They were piggyback townhouses. So I'd go outside, meet up with my friend Kay, and me and him would walk around the neighborhood. Well, the way the townhouses are designed, they're rows of 9, and you have a townhouse on one side and a townhouse on the other side. And at the end of every row, they have an electrical box, a little fence, and then there's a row of bushes in front of it that, for a kid who's 6, 7 years old, they look like they're gigantic, which they're only like 3 feet tall, bushes, but they're like these thick bushes. Well, he lived in the back part of the neighborhood. I lived in the front. So I go to the back part, pick him up, and me and him would walk around the neighborhood, and towards the back part of the neighborhood, there's a field, a bike path that's fully wooded, and then there's on top of this hill, there's a soccer complex. So we were walking towards the back part, right around the bend of this one row of townhouses, and there was an orange cat that belonged to one of the neighbors there that would follow us every time right around the end of the townhouse, and then it would just turn around and go back. So we saw this cat all the time. So me and Kay were just walking, the cat's following us. We get around the bend, we're walking right on the side of the bushes. This little cat is in front of us, and a giant hand and arm comes through the bushes and grabs this cat. Grabs it, doesn't touch it, just grabs this entire cat and yanks it into the bushes. Well, being 2 young kids, we scream bloody murder and we bolt. We don't even look to see what it is. We just bolt. We're out of there. We hear the cat screaming and we're gone. Now, if I was describing what the hand looked like, it was not furry, didn't have fur or anything. It looked like a goblin hand. That's the best thing I could tell you. I used to watch like a bunch of cartoons and stuff. It kind of reminded me of like the goblins off of like old Lord of the Ring cartoon. The hand it did, at least. And me and him ran off. We were freaked out. I ran home, told my father. My father just laughed at me, didn't believe me. Kay told him the same story. Now, my dad knew Kay very well. Didn't believe us. He just thought we were just messing with him. So a couple of days go by, I go back to the actual area, and I'm a little hesitant. I'm a little freaked out because I'm like, we just watched a hand grab a cat and we don't know what it was. So I go behind the bushes and I realize there's a hole in the ground that's probably about the diameter of a foot in perfect circumference. And I looked in the hole and it just goes straight down, and I see a bunch of cat fur, a little bit of blood, but a lot of cat fur, and that's it. So I didn't know what to do. I just grabbed a really big rock and put it on top of there, and that was the end of it. I never saw anything more about it, and me and him never walked to that part of the neighborhood for a long time before he moved. So that was the first encounter that I noticed when I was a kid, and then things started kind of progressively as time went by. We started having more and more things happen in the neighborhood. In the town where I was at in the neighborhood, there's another bike trail that goes across a main road that goes to a lake. And this lake is a small reservoir that leads to another larger lake that deals with the state park that's there. So I used to go to that lake all the time to go fishing. I was allowed to walk down there, and my parents allowed me to go there because there was neighborhoods behind parts of this lake where you can just walk through if you had to. But I always took the bike trail through the woods, and I'd walk the entire lake and come back around. Well, we had a summer where I would say it was probably 99, 2000-ish. Dogs and cats started going missing. Me and my friends would find dead animals. Like we found a dead fox that was like ripped apart. We found geese that had no heads. We found a couple of the dogs near the lake missing their heads or missing their hindquarters. We found a chihuahua that was stuck up in a tree. We found a bunch of dead animals. And, nobody really knew what was going on. Nobody was really talking about it. And, me being as a kid, I used to go in the woods all the time with my friends. We would play hide and seek, manhunt, whatever. So going in the woods and everything near there was always something we did. Now, I don't recall ever seeing anything when we found these animals. And we were kind of like pretending like we were investigating a crime scene, but at the end of the day, we just found a lot of dead animals that we couldn't explain, and there was people talking about their dog or cat going missing. Well, about 4 or 5 years later, um, my best friend, who I call my brother, I'll give his first initial, which is a T. T and me wanted to go night fishing. So I was about 16 years old around this time, 16, 17 years old. Me and T go night fishing down by the lake. Now, where we're at is a duck feeding area. And it's an open area where people go to feed the ducks. There's a bunch of rocks, there's a bench and stuff there. And we always fish right there to go fishing. And behind us is a massive field, then there's a hill, and then it leads into a neighborhood that's behind us. And there's neighborhoods all around the lake besides woods and trees. So we felt fine because there was lights behind us. Well, it's dark. We're sitting at the lake, and I start hearing something splash in the water. And first time I heard it, me and T were like, is that a fish? And it's dark out. It's probably about 10 o'clock at night. Problem is, these splashes started getting closer and closer to us. Now, the distance from where we sat to the other side of the lake on the shore is about a football field long. So you're talking 100 yards. Well, out of nowhere, a football-sized rock comes flying across, lands right by my legs from the other side of the lake. And I looked at T and I'm like, yo, what could throw something that heavy across a lake? And he's looking at me, he's like, dude, I'm freaking out. I was like, out of nowhere, you hear this big splash. By that point, we already darted. We were gone. Like, we weren't playing around. We didn't even go up the bike path. We wanted to see light. We went up to the neighborhood. We cut through 3 neighborhoods to get home. We left all our stuff there. Wasn't trying to figure it out. Wasn't trying to pass go and collect $200. We were gone. Now, I've always been a big kid throughout my life, but believe me when I say this, when a fat person needs to run, you're gone. You ain't asking questions. You're not trying to find out. You're gone. So the next morning I came back during the day. I picked up all our stuff. It was there. I looked around the lake. I didn't see anything. And I was like, whatever. I don't know what's going on here. Well, about a year later, a couple friends of mine were telling me about a site they found near the park, or the national park near us, where they went up into like a mountain. On the top of this hill or mountain, they found a bunch of animal bones. So I said, okay, well, I want to check this out. I'm curious about what it is. Because remember, between this 5 to 6, 7 year period, we've had animals going missing. And we would find dead animals a lot. So they take me on this crazy hike up this pretty steep hill. I guess you can call it a hill or a small mountain. And on the top in the woods are these mounds. There's these big dirt mounds. And I'd say there's about 2 dozen of them. They're about 6 feet in diameter, and they're about 6 to 7 feet tall. And there's a hole going in, and there's a hole coming out. And I'm looking at this, and I'm like, what can make mounds like this? And why are there so many of them? And then you look around, there are literally bones everywhere. Like animal bones, deer bones, whatever. We found a couple dog skulls. A lot of them are old. There was a couple that were fresh. And I'm looking at this, and I tell my group of friends, I'm like, look, get out of here. You guys can never come back here again. I don't know what it is. I don't want to know what it is. Whatever it is, it can take a deer down. It can surely take us down. So we never went back there. Well, now to this day, that area is gone. The town that it was in, they flattened it all and built a bunch of apartments. So we went through that whole thing, and I was like, okay, well, whatever. Well, now we're going to jump ahead. I really didn't have too many crazy encounters. I moved out of that area, went to Pennsylvania, lived in Pennsylvania for a couple of years, came back, and now I live in West Virginia. Now we're going to get to the more interesting parts of this. So before I moved to West Virginia, I lived in, I can say where I lived at this point. I lived in Hagerstown, Maryland. I lived with a roommate, and this was around 2020, 2019, 2020, when COVID was in full effect. We decided, because everybody was locked in the houses, people were going out fishing a lot because we didn't want to be in the house during the time of COVID. So we were going to a bunch of different areas to look for fishing spots, see where we were going. We were trying to fish for catfish, and we found this one spot in Maryland. I actually just recently went back there, Dan. I sent you a bunch of photos and videos of the location about what I'm talking about. And this is where we had a very creepy, insane encounter that I actually forgot about it until about maybe 2 or 3 months ago when I was watching one of your episodes. Or no, we were doing a live, and it just brought up the whole thing. So we get to this location. There's a boat ramp dock there at this park. I guess you can call it a park. It's a camp area. People go camping, they cook out, they do whatever there. So we went down the boat ramp, and when you go down it, it's pretty steep, and there's a embankment. The embankment actually is about 10 to 15 feet tall from the bottom where the river is. So we wanted to go fishing on the bottom of the embankment because the river was a little bit lower. And we were sitting on the embankment, and I started looking down, and I'm like, looking at my roommate, I'm like, hey, do you see these tracks? He goes, those are some big dog tracks. I'm like, no. I'm like, those are big dog tracks. I'm like, I have big hands. My nephews and my nieces tell me I have like bear paw hands. These tracks were literally like the size of my hand. They're canine tracks. They were these big, giant canine tracks. And I'm looking at them, and I wish I took pictures of this when we were there. I didn't think of it because I was too focused on setting up to go fishing. So I'm like, all right, whatever. So we get set up. We set up our chairs. We get our fishing rods out. And on the top of the embankment, I could hear something up there walking. It sounded like 4 legs, but you can hear this animal, whatever it is, panting heavy. I mean, it's like panting atomically heavy, like it's massive. And it's getting closer and closer and closer. The problem is we could not see what was up there because of how high this embankment is, but we could hear it getting closer and closer. And I'm like, I looked at my room, I was like, dude, this is a big dog or this is a big wolf or something. I was like, if it jumps me, I'm killing it. So I pull out my giant bow knife. I had, a 9-inch bow knife. He had one with him, and we're ready. We like turned around, we're ready. We're like ready to jump on this thing. If it jumps over, we're taking it out. Like I was fully ready. It got so close to the point where you're thinking now it's about to jump on you, whatever this large animal is. You can hear the weight of it in the footsteps, the breathing, and then it just stops. I mean, stops, like instant quiet. Now, it's starting to get dark. This is summertime, so it's about almost 9 o'clock. It's starting to get dark around this time. So it stopped coming. We don't hear it. I look at him. He looks at me, and I'm like, we need to get the hell out of here. So we packed our stuff real fast, and we're starting to walk up the boat ramp. When we come up the boat ramp, and you can look at the photos I sent you, there's a little porta potty outhouse they have there. It's a built-in one. As we're coming up the ramp to where my car is parked, because my car wasn't parked directly where the parking spots was. It was parked further back to line up where we were at to make it easier. I look over towards the parking spots where the field and the camp area is, and I see a naked man with long gray hair running from the embankment all the way down from the embankment near the camp area towards the woods near the hills. And I'm looking at him, and he looked at me, and he is running. And I'm like, why is there a naked man? By the time I walked past the Porter John house, I lost visual of it. I get to the other side, he's gone. And I'm like, where did this naked guy come from? And like, where did you just go? So I'm yelling in my room, like, you didn't see the naked guy? He goes, no. I'm like, dude, you didn't see the naked man running across the field? He goes, no, what are you talking about? I'm like, bro, I just watched a naked man run across this field towards the woods. I lost visual when I passed the bathroom. You don't see anything. He goes, no, I didn't see anything. So I'm like, dude, we need to get out of here. Now I get, he and me both get this horrible sense of like pure instantaneous dread. Like, get out. Like, you need to get out now. Like, and he looks at me, he goes, dude, I feel sick. Like, we need to get out of here. So we get in the car and we're driving out. You have to go through a tunnel to get out of this area. And there's a giant railroad track bridge above us after you get out this tunnel. And we didn't feel better until we got past all of that out of that entire area. And I'm like, dude, was that a skinwalker? He goes, what are you talking about? I'm like, that was a skinwalker. I was like, either that or it was a werewolf and it shapeshift. I said, how do you go from seeing giant paw prints of a wolf to hearing something that you heard to now a naked man? He goes, I don't know. He goes, all I know is that it was creepy. We need to get out of here. So we leave. We did not talk about it after that. We left it alone. I forgot about it until I heard you guys talking on the podcast, and it just clicked in my head. And I was like, yo, I remember that whole day. So I recently went back there. Actually, I went back there yesterday. It took me an hour and a half to find the place because I haven't been there since. And even going there was very creepy, was very continuous. I saw someone camping there, but there's no cars. It's just a very eerie place. And, there's a lot of talk about certain areas of Maryland, especially in that area, the Hagerstown, Clear Spring area. And I will say that particular area because I'm not giving you the direct locations, but I've talked to people around there. They've told me about some things that they've heard over time. I've talked to a lot of the younger teenagers who do stupid things because they're the ones that always want to have the most information. I've heard people talk about seeing a large canine creature or seeing something very similar, what they call screamers, are also very similarly known as like a rake or a crawler. These are just things that people have told me. So there's a lot of similarities out there. So now we're going to jump to now. Now, I've had a fascination with Dogman. I've had a fascination with Bigfoot, but I've gotten more into Dogman than anything. I have not seen a Dogman. Let me throw that out there before someone says something. I have not seen one. I have not gone looking for anything. What I saw a week and a half ago was unexpected. And the more and more I think about it, the more and more I put into perspective of what happened. It kind of goes in line about a lot of other things that has happened the last 4 years I lived in West Virginia that has put me into this position where I'm at right now. So 2 Sundays ago, I was driving home because I have to go through 22 miles of woods to get to my house. Now, let me give some history to this because I sent some photos to you, Dan, of deer carcasses I found in the river that I thought were very strange. I talked to another guy in the cryptid community named Swamp Dog, and I sent him these photos too, where I found deer carcasses that were ripped up, thrown in the river. This isn't the first time I've seen deer carcasses or anything like that in waterways. I've seen them 2 other times in 2 other locations in another state, which I thought was weird. It was always like deer legs or the shoulder blades that were thrown in waterways. They had no meat on them, or they were like skinned with no, like barely any meat, or they were ripped apart or broken or snapped. So when I sent you those photos, this is 4 days before I had my first sighting, and that's what we're going to go into, which was Bigfoot. So I was driving home on a Sunday night or Sunday morning because it was Saturday into Sunday. It was about 12:40 in the morning. Where I had my encounter is about 7 miles from my house. So I go through a lot of up and down hill type roads through the woods. This particular stretch of road I go to, there is a large property on the right-hand side. It's probably about 5 to 6 acres. There's a little pond there's a big pond they have there. And there's this beautiful house that I actually wanted to buy 4 years ago. So I know the area where I'm passing very well. You have to come up this hill, and as soon as you come up the hill, you have to go down this hill that goes down the hill to go up another big hill. But everything on the right-hand side, there is a tree barrier, basically, with a majority of pine trees. So as I come up this hill, my headlights, which on my Subaru Outback, they adjust. They move as you move on the bends. So the lights are just starting to adjust, and they make direct line contact to the tree line on my right-hand side. And what caught my attention was a shimmer. Now, when I say a shimmer, I mean, like, think of it as like you just hit something that was sparkly and it created like a small shimmer. This shimmer on this Bigfoot that was standing right in front of the trees, like it was about to walk in, is what caught my attention. So now I got a full visual of this creature standing in front of these pine trees, about to walk through them. As I'm coming down this hill, I get full visual of the whole back end of this Bigfoot. From top of its head to the bottom of its feet, the complete back end. Now, people say, well, why didn't you see the front of it? Well, it's standing right in front of the pine trees, like it's about to make the step in through the pine trees to get through where it's going. So I tell people, think of it, look at it as like if you're looking at a doorway. It's standing right in front of the doorway. You're only going to see what you're seeing in front of the doorway from the back part of it. So I get a full look at this thing, and these pine trees are about 20 to 25 feet tall. It is almost half the height of these pine trees. So I'm estimating it's about 9 feet tall. It could be a little bit taller. It's a 9-foot tall Bigfoot that's about 5 feet wide. Standing in front of this, I'm getting this full visual of it. It's not a black color animal. It's not red. It's not dark brown. It is a light brown / dark tan, like the color cardboard, like the color of the cardboard, like a cardboard box. All this is happening within seconds of me looking at this. And I get hit with this energy in my chest to my heart, like someone took a thunderbolt and shot me with it. And instead of the instincts of wanting to slow down and look at it more, I hit the gas pedal and I sped off even faster. And I'm going through this motion of this feeling that I have no idea what's going on. I'm in a dead zone, texting people, hoping that a message goes out, because I had no idea how to react. I didn't know how to react. It wasn't something I was looking for. It wasn't something I was trying to find. It just happened in that moment when I came up that hill and I saw it on the right-hand side standing there. And it startled me, I guess. Now, I tried to explain this because I didn't know how to talk about it for a brief minute. Think of it an adrenaline rush. Times it by like 100. That's the pain that I was feeling in my chest. I finally got to the point where I got home. I contacted my one friend, Swamp Dog. Me and him were talking about it. I text you. You didn't text until that morning. And I didn't know how to go about it. I was still processing this entire thing. I went on to Google Maps. I started pulling up the geological location of this entire thing. I started looking at the trees. I started figuring out, like, trying to determine the height, how wide it was, because that's how my brain thinks. I overanalyze everything down to a T. I can look at a photo and I can tell you the photo exactly because I've looked at that photo down from every little detail of that photo. So that's how I'm putting everything back into perspective of what I saw. So I didn't speak about this to a lot of people actually that day. And the reason why is I started realizing the more I told people, the harder it got to tell, because now I'm starting to feel like, oh my God, I understand why people don't talk about this, because they think you're crazy. Like they think you're actually like, they're like, oh, well, it's not true. I've only told 9 people. Now I'm telling the world, but I've only told 9 people. And a lot of them were close people. I even told my pastor about this. And my pastor was actually shocked. And I told him, I was like, you can believe what you want to believe. I know what I saw. I was like, I don't have a reason to make it up. Now, in this whole encounter, I started having flashbacks of things that happened in the last 4 years. And it's these little details that have kind of made me like think, okay, have they been there all along? Is this what I'm not seeing? And I just now caught it at the right time, at the right moment. And I'm like, okay, fine. When I moved to the area that I live in, I brought my nieces and my nephews to my house. We were driving down the main stretch of road. My nieces made a joke, which I thought was a joke, but now I think about it, they might have actually seen something and I just didn't know about it. She goes, Uncle Anthony, and I have twin nieces. Do orangutans live around here? And I'm like, no, it's probably a Bigfoot. And I like laughed it off, and my nephew's laughing, and we're like, yeah, and I just kept driving. At that time, why would a 10-year-old randomly come and say, do orangutans live here? And I ask her, and she says, oh, well, I saw one sitting on a tree stump. That's not something that they would just randomly make up. And my nieces and my nephews are actually very good kids. They don't lie. They're very well behaved around me. And it's not something that they just would normally just randomly say, because I know how they are. And they know that I'm into the cryptid community, but we weren't talking about that stuff. And for one of them to just make that gesture and that comment, it made me started thinking. I'm like, wait a minute, hold on. What did you really? And like now I went back and they like forgot about it, but like I didn't forget about it. I remember what they said. So now I'm putting these little pieces in puzzles. So now I'm thinking about all this and I'm like, this is crazy. Like I'm running into this. Everything's kind of changed. I'm looking at things in the woods differently now as I drive. And I'm like almost kind of spazzing out, like every little detail. Well, what's today? Today is Saturday. So I've been sick for about a week. Last Wednesday, when I was driving home, and this is the thing I didn't tell you, and I haven't told anybody this actually. You're the first person to know about this, Daniel. I was driving home at night, the same area where I saw the Sasquatch. I came over the bend and I saw a brown mist on the road. This brown mist hovering over the road near the tree line. And I had that same feeling hit my chest. There's no physicality to it. It was just a brown covering mist hovering over the road, going through the tree line to that property. And I went right through it and I freaked out because I'm like, I don't know what this is. And I'm looking and I'm like, what did I just see again? Like, why am I seeing this stuff? What is this? The next day now I have a cold that's been acting different than normal colds. Most your flus or whatever started in your face and moved to your chest. Reverse it. It's been in my chest and moved to my face. It's been completely backwards how I've been sick. I don't know what that was. I don't know what I saw. I just told you what it is. It was a brown mist that I drove through. I have no idea what's going on. The more and more now I started talking to people in my town, I've been finding out some things that I didn't know. I actually found something else about An encounter I had the tunnel. There's a tunnel near here, and I forgot to bring that up. During the summer, I took my 2 nephews down to this tunnel. We were going to go hiking, and people go to this local tunnel near me. I don't really see a point of even really hiding it because you can look up the information about it. It's online. It's called the Paw Paw Tunnel. It's in Maryland. It's pretty well known. The tunnel was built, mainly for the railroad to cut through. So we wanted to go hiking. I took the boys out. It was getting later in the evening, but they wanted to go after dinner. I said, okay, let's go. We'll go hiking. So it's just at dusk. We're getting to the tunnel. We're walking through it. I have never gone through this tunnel completely. Never have. I always get halfway through it and I get like a weird feeling, and I always take my dog. And prior to me taking the boys, I had an experience back in the winter with my dog, because I take my dogs down there with me if I go, and I stopped going because of this experience. It was a early morning. It was kind of misty and foggy out. And I got to the tunnel, and I do a distinctive whistle for my dogs to come to me when I need them to come because they get too far. And I heard something in the woods on the mountain where this tunnel's going through, trying to imitate this whistle. Immediately caught my attention. I heard it 3 times. My dog then caught on to something in the woods on the mountain, and she's staring hard. And I'm looking and I can't see enough because it's dark and it's misty where we were at. So I hear the whistle again, and I'm like, that's not normal, and it's not my exact whistle, and it was kind of gurgly. So I'm like, let me get out of here. So I yell at my dog. We start leaving, and I can hear something walking in the woods on the edge of the wood line in the woods, following us halfway down the trail. So I was like, all right, let me get out of here. My dog is reacting like she can hear it, but she can't see it. So I was like, all right, let me get down here. So I haven't gone back there. So we decided to go there. We get halfway through the tunnel, and the boys are in front of me. Now, the way I always have my nephews or my nieces, whenever we go out anywhere, I have them walk in front of me. So I have full visual of what I'm seeing. If someone comes to grab them, I can react. I never want them behind me. So the dog's in front of us. My nephews are in front of me, and I'm behind them. We get about halfway through this tunnel. Now, the tunnel is 3,185 feet long. I looked it up to find out. It's one of the larger tunnels in this area. I see something at the end of the tunnel, at the very end of the tunnel, poking its head out. Just poking its head out at the end of the tunnel. And I'm like, what the hell is that? What am I looking at? And I'm like, does it about 4 to 5 times. And I stopped, and the boys heard me stop, and they turned around and they're like, what's wrong? And I'm looking at the end of the tunnel, and my dog does not see this, which is kind of what freaked me out even more, because I thought the animal in front of us would have seen this. Nope. So I call her back. I say, hey, we need to go. We're not going up to the end of the tunnel. Well, then I hear a splash in the water, and I look down towards the canal, because in this tunnel on the left side, if you're walking on the other side to get to the other side, there's a canal that runs through it. Okay? The canal is full of water, but it's like a 15-foot drop in this canal on the side where you're walking, and it's dark. This tunnel is dark. There's no lights. When you get in the middle of the tunnel, there is no lights. Unless you have flashlights, it's pitch black, except for the light at one end and the light on the other end. So I'm looking at the other end of the tunnel on the canal part, and I see the head poking out again. And I'm like, yeah, no, we got to get out of here. So now I got a head poking out, splash. I need to get the boys out. So I have the boys come towards me, walk towards the other side. I'm behind them. The dog's in front of them. I start praying in the tunnel. Now, I'm doing a heavy prayer, like not playing around. I'm not going about this. I'm like, Lord, Heavenly Father, whatever is in this tunnel, I rebuke it in the name of, like, I'm going hardcore. I hear my oldest nephew go, he's praying. It must be bad. We need to get out of here now. So now we're power walking. The boys run out. I'm power walking. I ain't running. Not yet. I ain't exerting energy yet unless I really need to. We get out the tunnel. My oldest nephew comes. He goes, did you see what I saw? I was like, what did you see? He goes, you didn't see what I was like, let's walk further and we'll talk. I don't want to be near this tunnel anymore. I want to be far away so I can see what's going on around me. So we walk another probably 100, 200 yards. And I said, tell me what you saw. He goes, what did you see? I was like, no, you tell me what you saw, and then I'm going to verify if it's what I saw. He goes, I saw a head poking out at the end of the tunnel. I said, yes. He goes, so you saw that? I said, yes. He goes, it poked its head out like 4 times. I said, exactly. So my youngest nephew's now kind of freaking out. And he's like, what's going on? And I'm like, I don't know. And my older nephew, who knows that I'm into cryptids, he's like, do you think it is what it is? Do you think it's a crawler? I'm like, I don't know. I said, whatever it was, poked its head out. I didn't want us to get to the other side. It was obviously going to try to ambush us. I said, and I'm not going to risk it. I said, the dog and me go before you two. He was like, what do you mean? I was like, the dog and me fight off, you two run for life. That's how law is. That's how it's supposed to be in the rules of me. You guys make it out. You find my dead body later. If that's what happens. I fight off whatever it is. That's how it works. So I started talking to them, and I brought up this analogy, and I actually told you this analogy yesterday when we were talking. When you see something that you normally don't see, think about it like if it's a rattlesnake. You would normally never see a rattlesnake in the woods because it camouflages. But once you make eye contact with that rattlesnake and you realize what it looks like in nature, in the woods, how it works in camouflages, you now see rattlesnakes everywhere because you now know what to look for. That's the same thing right now happening with me. My senses are so heightened from everything that I'm seeing that now I'm seeing everything, and it's driving me cuckoo right now. I think what I'm feeling right now is a sense of fear. I think I'm feeling a sense of fear that I've never felt. And it's causing me to like kind of tweak because every time I hear something, I'm like looking around and I don't know what it is. So these are just some of the encounters on the cryptid side of things that are going on, Dan. And this is the experience that I had with my Bigfoot encounter and the brown mist that recently happened. That I've not talked to anybody about. So that's where we're at.
Bro. I don't know what to think about the brown mist, man. I really don't. I just don't. But I do have some questions.
Ask away.
So let's go back to the lake when something was throwing rocks at you and your buddy T.
Mm-hmm.
How far across was that lake from the side you were guys on to where the rocks were potentially being thrown?
It's the length of a football field.
So it's okay. So it's about 100 yards long
Yep.
or wide.
Yep.
Wow.
That lake is literally the length of a football field in width from one end to the other end where we were sitting at. The size of the lake in total, if you take, so the bike path to actually go around that entire lake is about 2.5 miles. On the trail itself to go around the entire lake is 2.5 miles.
Okay. So when you first notice these things, these rocks being tossed and you hearing the splash from where you guys were sitting, how far out were those rocks? How far do you think they were reaching to you guys?
So I'd say the first couple rocks were kind of going towards the center of the lake. Then you had a third one that got real close in the water. And I'm like, was that a fish that jumped out in front of us? And then by the fourth rock, that's when it hit like right near me. And I'm like, yo, that's not a small rock. Like it was a football size.
Wow.
Like it was a good 10-pound rock to lift up. And I'm like, I can't throw that across a lake. Like I'm not an Olympic shot putter. I cannot throw something that heavy across a lake.
Right. Right. Now, you'd mentioned there was missing animals in the area. Were there any
Yep.
like missing posters put up around the area?
Some people put up some stuff about like one lady had a thing for her dog, her Chihuahua that was missing. We ended up finding that dog.
Yeah, I was
Well,
about to
half
ask
of
you.
it.
That's what my next question was: is the animals that you guys came across, were any of those possibly the animals that were in those missing posters?
A couple of them. We found collars that were still on the animals, or half of the animals that was half of the body.
Hmm.
Some of the animals had no heads. They were just missing the head completely.
Now, and I hate to bring this up, but do you think that it was people who were involved in some type of nefarious activity that were taking these animals and doing them in?
Here's the thing. So the time age when this was happening, this is like the early 2000s. Teenagers back then were all into dumb things like gothic and stupid things like that.
Mhm.
Where that lake is, there's part of that bike path leads up to like the main highway. There's a giant tunnel that goes underground. It's a water tunnel that goes across into another neighborhood. People go in there all the time. They would smoke weed or do drugs or whatever. I mean, there was a guy who got shot and killed there.
Mm.
I don't want to say that they were doing anything ritual with these, because here's the thing. You're not finding these things around like fire pits or anything like that. They were deep in the woods. Like
Okay.
we would go into the woods deep where people normally would not walk into. So for you to find I don't know, like let's say 100-pound Rottweiler that you only find the back end of that dog, where's the other part of that dog?
Right. Right.
We were just we found a deer that was ripped apart. Part of the deer was in one area. Another part of the deer was actually probably about 200 yards from where we found it. Now, I'm not saying that could have been the same deer, but it's just ironic that half of a deer is here and another half is over there. And it's like the missing half that's not where it's supposed to be.
Right.
We found dead cats in the trees, which I thought was really weird. But it was always the insides that were missing on the cats. Like you'd find the whole body of the cat, but never the insides of it.
Right.
It was weird.
Yeah. I mean, I've come up on things like that as well, but not to that extent. Let's fast forward to where you and your other friend were out at this area where you saw the naked man. So I loaded up pictures. And so here's I guess a picture of the area.
That's one part, yeah.
Okay. And then here's that outhouse.
Yep.
That you're talking about, enclosed.
Yep. Now you see where my car is.
Yep.
My car was not parked there. I only parked it there that day, yesterday, because I was looking around.
Right.
My car is on the opposite side of where that outhouse is, facing the main road there. So, yeah, it's on that side. So, where my car was is where I saw the naked man on the back part of that field as I'm coming up that ramp.
So he's cutting across this field.
Not that field. That field's on the other side.
All right. Yeah, I didn't download all of them.
No, you're good. Because the field behind there is actually another campground. There's actually a tent that's there.
Okay.
I saw a tent, but where those woods are that's where he was walking towards.
Oh wow. That's crazy to me. that you hear all this noise, you hear this breathing, you come up into the area to get to your car, you and your buddy, and all of a sudden you see a naked man taking off across a field.
Yep.
Sorry about that. And then, did you see that? And he's like, I don't know what you're talking about.
See, now where I'm standing, this is where we're coming up the boat ramp.
Yeah.
So you can see the slope in the hill right there. But when you go further down the boat ramp, it leads to the banking of the river.
Yeah.
Um,
So this kind of just gives a little bit of indication on what type of height we're looking at. And
mhm.
I'm assuming the bottom of your car is probably level with the top of your head right now. And you still
Yeah.
have a ways to go down.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's steep. That really is steep.
It's a very steep boat ramp. I mean, the short videos that I sent you, I'm explaining in detail a little bit about exactly what we're looking at and where you start seeing me explain where I saw him.
Yeah.
When I went down to the actual bank, I looked up, I was like, oh my God. I was like, I forgot how tall this is because it's been so long, but I didn't realize like the banking, it's probably about 15 feet tall, 15 to 20 feet tall from the bottom of where we were sitting. Like you can't look over it to see it. You actually have to walk up that whole thing to get up to the top of that bank.
Yeah. And then let's get into your Bigfoot side. So you said, previously, you would come across in a lake or a pond, you had found a deer carcass.
These were in the river.
Oh, in the river.
So where those deer carcasses were seen are 11 miles from my sighting.
Okay.
And my sighting is 7 miles from my house.
Okay. So here's one picture that you sent me.
Yep.
And then here's another one.
Mm-hmm.
And then here's this one.
Yep.
It's just it's now I'm not saying that this is what it could be. I'm not saying that a Bigfoot did that. I'm not saying, it could very well be someone who poached and
It
took
could
what they
be.
wanted, but again, it's
So
if people poach, they don't want to be noticed for poaching. They're going to take some type of measures to hide what they're not keeping. They're not just going to be very brazen about it and just toss it where someone walking along the river is going to say, oh, well, look at this, So it just kind of raises some questions.
Let me throw the mystery to this.
Yeah.
I've seen this happen in 2 other locations.
Right.
The first location I've ever seen this is at a national park at a fishing area where people go fishing. There's actually a swimming beach at this lake in Maryland. You have to pay to get into this park. You can't just go in there.
Right.
They locked this park off. Why would you find deer remains near a boat dock where people are going to go fishing?
Exactly.
Then the second time was at another national park area. And I actually will name this place because it's very common in Maryland, but it's at a park called Devil's Backbone.
Right.
There's swing sets there. There's a dam there where people go fishing at all the time. It's a very, very public area. Why would you? And I'm not talking about a whole carcass. I'm talking about just like legs and stuff thrown in the river. Like, why would you throw those particular type of body or animal parts in these waterways in different areas? And these are all, if you do the geological distance between all this, okay, well, the first state park that this happened at to Devil's Backbone, you're talking about 25 miles away. And then from Devil's Backbone to this other location here in West Virginia, you're talking well over almost 60 miles away.
Yeah.
That's a large distance of stuff that's going on. So, I find it interesting that these are happening at these parks. And yet again, I really didn't think anything of it until recently. And, I'm just like, why is it waterways? Why are waterways becoming an area where you're finding these deer carcasses or deer body parts laying around? So it didn't really click into me until I found these carcasses, and I was like, oh, okay, this is a little weird.
Right. Well, I mean, they do say they use waterways as modes of travel, methods of travel. Not saying that they get on a boat and travel down, but they'll walk along the banks. They'll go into a tributary. They'll go into a creek or they'll go into a stream, and they'll use those to move around.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and then the last one, let's talk about the Paw Paw Tunnel, and that's in Maryland, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so you and I talked about this long ago,
Yep.
and
I actually called you when I had the encounter.
yeah, and it's crazy because you guys, when he called me, I still remember the call. Dude, you were amped up.
Yeah, I had my nephews with me. I mean, you heard them in the background.
Yeah, I mean, you were definitely amped up. You could definitely tell that something had happened, and again, you didn't get a really good look at it
No.
in the sense of you could make out detail and things like this, but where it was peeking its head out, you guys, I'm telling you, it wasn't peeking its head out on the side of this tunnel. It was peeking its head out from the top of the tunnel,
Hmm.
and I don't know what how do you get up to the top of the tunnel, but then you gotta look at how far is the distance from where it could potentially bend down.
How could it have gone to the canal without us seeing it run across?
Exactly.
That tells me there's more than one. But I just found out yesterday. I'm waiting for this young man to give me a call because I went into town. And I started asking some people some questions because I'm trying to now do some research on what's going on around here. And I found out um, there's been some instances where dogs are going missing recently in the last 5 months, and a young man and his family went to that tunnel at nighttime during Halloween because there's actually information online I didn't know about that tunnel being haunted. And when I was speaking to his mother was the one who told me about what her son saw. She called him last night. I briefly spoke to him, and what he described to me kind of was a little crazy.
Yeah.
So I'm waiting for him to call me to take me exactly where he saw what he saw, but he described something very tall, slender, but it looked like a deer.
Oh, dude.
But it wasn't a deer.
Yeah.
He tried to say, he's like, I think it's a Wendigo, and I'm like, whoa, pause. So I asked him a couple questions, but he's supposed to meet up with me. We're supposed to go down there exactly where he had the encounter because his mother was telling me, she's like, he went from normal to pale white, and he thought it was going to kill them. Whatever he saw scared him enough that he thought it was going to kill them. And when I spoke to him on the phone for a brief minute, I could tell in his voice he was afraid. And I said, well, look, and I told him, I was like, I had an encounter down there. I have a theory, but I said, I don't know. I wanted him to give me more detail. I wanted to talk to him more in person than just on the phone.
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of waiting to see if he's going to reach out.
Well, and it's funny, because I've talked to quite a few Native Americans around here. They won't come on camera. They don't. When I talk to them, it's more of just, hey, I've got a question about something. Not that, hey, did you find or did you see anything? But there is a big, I don't know, it's not really a controversy, but there's two sides of the coin here when it comes to a Wendigo.
Yeah.
One, Wendigo has antlers. Two, the Wendigo does not have antlers. Now, every
Right.
Native American that I've talked to has said Wendigos do not have antlers. Now, I looked it up, and the antlers is more of now a modern, like kind of like movie type thing where they want to try
Right.
to distinguish it. So when people are saying they see something with antlers, they automatically go to a Wendigo. I think it's something other than than a Wendigo.
I think it's a not deer.
That's exactly what I was about to say. I think it's a not deer.
When I asked him if it had antlers, he said no, but he said it looked
Okay.
like a deer. And I was like, it could be a not deer, but he said it was very slender.
Well, then it very well could be, because
Could
they
be a
do.
rake.
You never know. So, but yeah. Well, brother, I can't thank you enough for coming on.
No, it's a pleasure, man. I mean, the only thing I'll say is that I understand why people now struggle so hard to talk about these encounters they have. I'm breaking down things that have happened in my childhood to now things happening now. And
Mhm.
it is a change in my life. It is a change in how things are going. I have fully accepted that. I will tell people the same thing I tell everybody else. You believe what you want to believe, but I know what I saw. I know the feeling that I've been feeling. Um, something I've never felt before. It's not something that I'm sitting here going around preaching to the world. I'm not. Because I understand where people are coming from. I understand why it's hard to have that conversation. Yes, the more you do talk about it, it helps a little bit. Um, but I think now it's kind of lit a new fire in me that it's put me into the investigation realm more than I ever have been. And it's funny because I told you and Josh, I was like, yeah, I'm going to start going out and doing investigations. Once I got through some of the little health issues I was dealing with, and then here it is, it kind of just found me, and I'm like, well, I wasn't ready for that.
Yeah.
I wasn't ready.
Well, I kept my sighting locked down for over 30 years. So, but again, once I talked about it, it got a little easier. I accepted it a lot more, and
Yeah.
discovered prior to my sighting, I had two other encounters. After investigating and going down, I don't know how many rabbit holes. So, but dude, this was a good time. I enjoyed having you on.
No, definitely, man. Definitely.
Well, you can always reach out to me if you just want to talk about anything. It doesn't matter, not necessarily this, but I'm here. If I don't get right back to you, I will get back to you. So
No, I appreciate it, man. I know. Hey, it's cool that we become friends over this little short period of time
yeah,
and how we've connected. So I really appreciate it.
yeah, absolutely, man. You're a good dude, man. And like I say, when I watch your lives, man, I get a big giggle. I start chuckling because you're preaching it, man. And you guys, I'm gonna tell you right now, Anthony here, man, he's not pulling anything. He's not making things up just to hear himself talk. He's not gonna sit there and start talking on something that he hasn't thoroughly checked out, investigated, and has a working knowledge about. So, um, yeah,
There's a saying that my dad told me. You're better off telling the truth, even if it makes somebody mad or if it hurts their feelings. But at least you're never known as a liar. But when you start going around lying about stuff, nobody's ever going to believe you or trust you again because you can't seem to tell what actually is truthful or not.
yep,
I'd rather be honest and hurt your feelings for 5 minutes and tell you the truth and not be called a liar than lie to you. And then you never know if I'm telling you the truth or not.
exactly. Because once that trust is gone with somebody, man, it's almost impossible to get that trust back.
Exactly.
So.
So,
All right, dude. Hang out for a second. I'm going to close out this episode. You have a great night. I'll see you in a couple minutes.
you too.
All right, buddy. You guys, that's my bro Anthony, man. He's such a cool guy. I always referred to him as the bombardier because he would come in and he would gift memberships or he would drop a super chat. But he's honestly one of the most honest people that I've had a chance to talk to outside of this. And and what I mean talk to on a regular basis. So you guys, that's the show for tonight. Anthony's had some amazing encounters. I loved hearing about every single one of them. You guys, I don't really have answers. I can only tell you what I think. I can only maybe give this platform for people to share their encounters because we're all seeing the same thing in one way, shape, or form. We're all encountering things we're all coming from different walks of life. We're coming from different parts of the country, different parts of the world. We're seeing them at different times, different seasons. That many people seeing the same thing or similar thing, there's something to it. So I'm not going to get out of here without saying it. My buddy Josh always says, stay prayed up. And I always like to say, you guys remember, a legend always begins with the sighting. I'll see you guys later. I'll see you on the next show. Have a good night, guys.
I got a strange going on out here. Something just killed my dog.
Something killed your dog?